top 10 players in the Big Sky coming into the 2024 season. Top 10 players. Now, I know earlier in the offseason I talked about one of the top players from each school in the Big Sky. Obviously, I think there's 12 teams in the Big Sky in 2024. I'm going to name the top 10 players in no particular order. These are not in order. It's just rambling off the top 10. And at number 1, I'm going to say Junior Bergen of Montana. Star player. Really, I mean, Junior Bergen had a name in the Big Sky Conference and in the FCS prior to 2024, but I think in 2023, prior to 2023, but I think 2023 season was when he really stamped himself as not only an All-American, but one of the top returners in the country, one of the best receivers in the country, really made his place known as one of the best offensive playmakers in FCS college football last year. Really big time player. Get the ball in his hands. He can make things happen. That's number 1 on our list. Number 2 on our list is the do-everything quarterback, Tommy Mellott. Can run it. Really good runner of the football. A lot of people, when you talk to a lot of big Bozeman fans, they want him to be healthy. Tommy Mellott is a phenomenal player from Montana State. He has been, he has been a great leader for them, a great player on the field. The only thing that's ever held Tommy Mellott back is his health and maybe potentially their kicker. But if Tommy Mellott can stay healthy in 2024, if they run him less power, I think the zone read option is his bread and butter, and I think they do it better than anybody in the country. But you gotta keep him upright, you gotta keep him safe. You cannot run him with that quarterback power 10, 15 times a game. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You got to keep him safe. But he's one of the top 10 players in the Big Sky Conference for sure. I don't think anybody would debate that. One of the top 10 players for sure. Somebody to keep your eye on. Number 3 on my list is Elijah Ponder of Cal Poly. 8.5 sacks in 2023. Cal Poly honestly gets lost in the wash. They don't compete at a high level in the Big Sky Conference. They ran the triple option for a very, very long time. They no longer run that triple option. They're now I think like a spread offense team. They actually just lost their quarterback, one of their quarterbacks. I don't know if he was their starter, but Sam Heward entered the transfer portal. I think he actually ended up at Utah maybe from Cal Poly, but really, really good player for Cal Poly, Elijah Ponder. Look for him to potentially be one of the top defensive players, potentially be defensive player of the year in the Big Sky Conference, depending on how he's able to play this year. I don't know how that works with, like, if your team is not good, but you're a really good player, can you still win defensive player of the year? I'd be interested to know. But that's another player. That's number 3 on our list. Number 4 on our list is Mr. Brody Grebe of Montana State. Really dog of a player for Montana State. 9.5 sacks in 2023 for Brody Grebe. I'm looking for him to get over that 10 sack mark in 2023. He will be donning the 41 number, the traditional, the I don't want to call it their legacy number, but that number for Montana State is very important. Number 41. He will be wearing that this year. Being a Montana kid, being a big leader for them, being one of the best players on the team, 9.5 sacks in 2023, that is no easy feat. He's a dog, a very, very good player, very physical, great size, great bend around the edge. I think he's a really good player. I think he's somebody to keep your eyes on. I think he's somebody to pay attention to for the 2024 season. He's definitely one of the top 10 players in the Big Sky Conference. I don't think anybody would dispute that. He's somebody who I think about when I think about how good Montana State could be in the 2024 season. Brody Grebe is somebody who pops into my mind, as well as Tommy Mellott. Somebody to pay attention to for 2024. At number 5 on our list, remember these are in no particular order, just numbering them off. At number 5 on the list is Efton Chism of Eastern Washington. He is the top receiving yards leader in the conference from 2023, returning this year for the 2024 season. Now, obviously, you might think of Chaden James, really good player for Idaho State last year. He had 1,000 receiving yards last year. He was the number 1 returner this year he would have been the number 1 returner in terms of yards last year. Efton Chism was right under that 1,000-yard mark for 2023. But Efton Chism, really, really good player. Been there for a while. I believe he's a senior this year. I remember when he was a young guy wearing number 89 for Eastern Washington when I was still playing for Montana. I think he was making plays back then when he was a young guy. They obviously had some really good receivers ahead of him, but he's definitely learned from all the vets that he played underneath at Eastern Washington, and he's come into his own as a player at Eastern Washington, and he's somebody to pay attention to. He's a dog, really, really good player out of Washington, playing for his home state team, Eastern Washington, one of the home state teams in Eastern Washington, and looking to make his case for one of the top receivers, the top receiver in the Big Sky Conference in 2024. That's number 5 on our list. At number 6, we have Mr. Riley Wilson at Montana. He had 8.5 sacks, similar to Elijah Ponder in 2023. I believe Riley Wilson was a second-team all-conference player. I think he could have snuck into that first team, but there was a lot of good defensive players in the Big Sky. I don't know if it's going to say a ton of good defensive players, but, I think Riley Wilson is definitely one of the best rushers in the Big Sky Conference coming into this year. You got Elijah Ponder, you got Brody Grebe. There's good pass rushers in the Big Sky Conference. Riley Wilson is one of those. He's kind of a smaller guy. He's not that prototypical, DN size. He's a little smaller for a DN. He's more so of a linebacker in that 3-3-5 system for Montana, but he's a really good player. He makes plays. He gets around the edge. He's got a lot of speed, good bend around the edge. He makes plays. He's a playmaker for sure. Came in, transferred from Hawaii, I believe, last year to come to Montana. And, he's somebody who really helped Montana's defense be the defense that they were last year, giving up, 16, 17, 18 points a game last year, maybe a little more than that. Might have been like 18, 19. But he contributed to making that defense what it was last year. So he's another player to pay attention to in the 2024 season. At number 7, we have Mr. Eli Gilman, the third Montana player on this list. Eli Gilman, one of the better running backs returning in the conference in 2024. He was the Jerry Rice Award winner in 2024. He's looking to capitalize on that this year. He had like 970 rushing yards in 2023. Right under that 1,000-yard mark. I know they have a litany of running backs. Stevie Rucker Jr. coming transfer in from Arizona for Montana. You got, why am I blanking on his name? Nick Osmo returning as well. I don't know how many carries Xavier Harris will be getting in 2024. I know he's going to be playing a little slot receiver for the Griz, but Eli Gilman, really good player for the Griz, really good running back in the conference, probably one of the top, if not the top running back in the Big Sky Conference returning this year. For Montana, that's the third Montana player on here. He's number 7 on our list, but a really good player nonetheless. Now, my next player at number 8 might surprise some of you guys, but I think he's a really good player, younger player, but somebody who made a name for himself and made himself known last year, and that is Mr. Alex McGuffin of Northern Arizona, freshman All-American last year, had 4 interceptions in 2023. Really, really good player, young player, looking to capitalize on what he was able to do last year as a freshman and be better in 2024. I think he could end up being one of the top defensive players in the country if he keeps on the trajectory that he did last year. I don't know if I think he's a safety because he had a lot of tackles. I don't know if he had like 70 tackles in 2024. I believe he plays safety for Northern Arizona. I think he was actually their leading tackler last year, as well as their leading, he led them in interceptions last year. He might have led the conference in interceptions actually last year, or tied. He might have tied with like Trevin Gradney, because I think Trevin Gradney might have had 4 as well. But Alex McGuffin, dog of a player, actually had 2 sacks as well last year. So I think for sure, really, really good player for NAU. Alex McGuffin, a freshman All-American, to make plays like that, 77 tackles, 4 interceptions, 2 sacks last year, 6 pass breakups. I mean, this dude is flying around all over the place. I think he's somebody to pay attention to coming into the 2024 season. I'm very excited to see how he's able to do in the 2024 season. He comes in at number 8 on our list. Really, really, really good player. At number 9, you have Mr. Lan Larison of UC Davis. He won Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year in 2020. Did he? I believe Lan Larison won Big Sky 2023 Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. If he wouldn't have won Offensive Player of the Year, I think Montana would have had a sweep with all the awards. They got the Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. They got Newcomer of the Year. I think Eli Gilman won freshman. Maybe I don't even know if they have a freshman award in the Big Sky. I can't remember all the awards, but I remember Lan Larison shook things up, and that was really big too because Lan Larison didn't even finish the end of the season, and I believe those awards are voted on by the coaches. So that meant that the coaches really understood who he was as a player and what type of impact he made and what kind of difference maker he was. Lan Larison, really good player for UC Davis. He's somebody who I think could have a really good season this year and end up in the NFL playing for somebody next year. He makes plays. He's very versatile. They use him all over the place. But very good player for UC Davis. Somebody to pay attention to for the 2024 season. He is at number 9 on our list. And then at number 10, We have a third Montana State player in Mr. Marcus Wehr, probably the top offensive lineman in the FCS. You know, you had a really good stable of linemen at South Dakota State last year. 2 of them are gone. I believe one of them returned for the 2024 season. Now, Marcus Wehr becomes that top player, top lineman in the subdivision. I believe North Dakota State has a really good lineman as well on their squad. Falls at about 6'5", 6'6", really good big guy. Marcus Wehr, probably the top lineman in the FCS, one of the top linemen in the country. Graded out really high on PFF last year. Might have been one of the highest graded linemen in the country last year. Not might have. I know he was one of the highest graded linemen by PFF last year. He's a really good player. Marcus Wehr, Montana State. 3 Montana State players on here. 3 Montana players on here. What do you guys think about this list? Do you guys think I missed anybody? Do you guys think there's obviously there's really good players all over the place. Who do you guys think I missed? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know, and we will move on.